So according to Aristotle, the very first philosopher in the world was a man named Thales. Born around 625 BC, he is most well known for his theory that water is the originating principle of all things. But my favorite story about Thales has to do with a challenge leveled against him by an individual who wondered why, if Thales really was so clever, had he not yet attained any wealth. So in response, again, this is according to Aristotle, Thales decided that he was going to reserve the rights to all of the oil presses in the area at a discount for some future date. And then he used his philosophical acumen to predict the weather so that he would know when there would be a good harvest, and with a high demand for the oil presses now, he could charge a higher rate. Thus, Thales proves that philosophy majors could, if they cared about that sort of thing, make plenty of money using their knowledge of the world. And the Greeks were not the only ones who came to this conclusion. The Hebrew people also found that there was this underlying logic or order to the world. And they called it wisdom. So, for example, in the book of Proverbs, we are introduced to wisdom as this attribute of God, personified in Lady Wisdom. And we are told that God uses this wisdom to create the world, weaving it into the very fabric of reality. And so whenever people are making good or just or wise decisions, they are tapping into this wisdom from God that exists at the very heart of creation. And likewise, whenever someone is making bad, evil, or unjust decisions, they are working against this innate wisdom in the world. And so what this means is that God's wisdom is ultimately available to everyone. All you have to do is tap into it, and you'll find this blueprint for building the good life for yourself and for others. And we see this generally bear out in our lives, don't we? People who eat well and get their exercise tend to avoid certain illnesses. People who are diligent in their work and stick to a budget tend to avoid financial disaster. When we talk about karma as a society, this is the sort of thing we usually have in mind. Good things finding their way to good and diligent people, while disaster seems to follow the foolish. Or as Proverbs puts it in chapter 1, the waywardness of fools will destroy them, but the one who listens to wisdom lives in security. But then comes this figure known as the teacher in the book of Ecclesiastes, wearing his black turtleneck with a cup of coffee, maybe a cigarette in hand. And this teacher points out that this is not exactly how the world works when we take a little closer of a look. It turns out that bad things happen to good people all the time. And it doesn't take very long to find evidence of the wicked doing rather well for themselves. All is vanity, the teacher tells us. These systems we design to lead to a good life are meaningless. Or to translate it more accurately, they are like smoke. As soon as we try to grasp it, it slips through our fingers. What looked solid turns out to be vapor. There are no simple rules we can just follow to get a reliable result. Your good behavior does not guarantee a good outcome. There is this element of chance, of randomness in life that will always leave us guessing. But the teacher of Ecclesiastes tells us this is no reason to despair. That despite all this vanity that is life, it is still better to choose to live wisely. But in choosing to live wisely, he says, we must also learn that because we cannot have control over our lives, we have to stop trying. Because ultimately, the only thing we really have control over is our attitude toward the present moment. So let go of your worry and embrace what is before you. As Jesus says, the good life is not measured in how many possessions you collect, for it rains on the just and the unjust alike. Building a bigger barn will get you nowhere. But a conversation with a good friend, a meal with your family, even just the feeling of the sun on your face. These simple things are the true riches of life, given to us by God. And they are available to everyone, no matter the chances and changes of this life.